Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamunatiravanachari Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Vijana Vallabha Giri Varadhari Radha Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Giri Varadhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Giri Varadhari. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamunatiravanachari Yamunatiravanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada.
Thank you, Jujamani Prabhu. Jujamani Prabhu, he's my Sankirtan partner. We go out, we distribute books, and it's very nice, to have someone that shares the same interests, distributing Srila Prabhupada's books, as well as giving people Krishna consciousness. If you could repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today I'll be reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, text 6. Bandhur atmanastasya yena maiva manajitaha anatmanastu shatrivetu vartat maiva shatruvat. So the translation for this, by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. Purport. The purpose of practicing Eightfold Yoga is to control the mind in order to make it a friend in discharging the human mission. Unless the mind is controlled, the practice of yoga for show is simply a waste of time. One who cannot control his mind lives always with the greatest enemy, and thus his life and its mission are spoiled. The constitutional position of the living entity is to carry out the order of the superior. As long as one's mind remains an uncontrolled enemy, one has to serve the dictations of lust, anger, avarice, illusion, etc. When the mind is controlled, one voluntarily agrees to abide by the dictation of the personality of Godhead, who is situated within the heart of everyone as Paramatma. Real yoga practice entails meeting the Paramatma within the heart and then following his dictation. For one who takes to Krishna consciousness directly, perfect surrender to the dictation of the Lord follows automatically. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaisnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hare Pre Vancha Kalpatri Bishcha Kripasan Bevacha Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnabhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Life is full of surprises. This morning I like to check my email to see who's giving class today, and I was half asleep, and I was scrolling, and I had one eye open, and then it said Govardhan. I said, okay. And I opened both eyes, and I said, I'm giving class today. So please forgive me if my class is just bouncing here and there. But this surprise is actually nice because it gives me the chance to speak on Krishna consciousness. So I'll be discussing the mind, questions, and the solutions to the problems of life. They say that questions are a sign of intelligence, but not just any questions, but the right questions. They say that there's a difference between the respect of a king and a learned person. Does anyone know the difference? A king is respected only within his kingdom, but a learned person is respected everywhere he goes because he carries that knowledge. There was a story, there was two brothers. They were studying under different teachers. One was studying knowledge, and one was studying business. He wanted to acquire money. So after 10 years of studying, they decided to go back home, and they wanted to share what they learned to their parents. On their way to their home, there was a group of robbers, dacoits, and they wanted to steal from these two brothers. Now, the person that was studying business, he had a lot of money with him, and they took that. But the learned person, he didn't have anything, so they couldn't take anything. But the real treasure was within the person's mind. So that's the difference. And we should understand what we're doing in life. There are 3 questions that every human being should ask. And what are they? Where's the nearest Starbucks? No, that's not the right question. Those questions are, who am I? Why is there suffering? And what is the meaning of life? These 3 questions, they form the basis or the foundation of knowledge. If we don't know who we are, how can we move forward? Everything that we do in life will end in defeat and failure and frustration. Who is good in math here? Okay, it's okay. You don't need to be good in math, but it's a simple analogy. If one is solving an equation, and if the first initial step is wrong, the conclusion will be incorrect, because the first step is wrong. So if I can ask a random person in the audience, you look new. If I ask you, who are you? How would you answer that? Jack. What about you, Mataji? If I ask you, who are you?
Oh, who am I? Most likely a person looking for knowledge for my soul and my mind.
Good. So you'll have different answers, but the most common answer is that they identify with the body, like that. My name is Jack, and they also identify with the type of work, the occupation that they do. I'm a CEO, right? I'm an engineer, I'm this, I'm that. But Srila Prabhupada in the Bhagavad Gita, it teaches us that there's actually a difference between the soul and the body. One is matter and one is spirit, one is temporary and one is eternal. And there's also different schools of thought. Some people think that the soul is the body, but this is another example. If someone is lying on a deathbed and you hear that flat line, beep, someone in the room will say, oh no, she's gone. The body's there, but then they say something has left the body. And what is that? The soul. So that soul is who we are. Jivera Swarup Hoy Krishnera Nichadas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the most recent incarnation, Krishna, 500 years ago, he taught us that the constitutional position of the soul is to serve God. The relationships that we establish in this world is temporary. I'm sorry. At the time of death, all of these relationships are broken. But the soul's relationship with God, Krishna, is eternal. So intelligence means to cultivate that relationship. But Srila Prabhupada explains that this relationship with Krishna is always there. It's inherent. That's actually the original consciousness of the soul. And so they say that the mind can turn heaven into hell, or hell into heaven. So it's what you make of this world. And Krishna says one must deliver the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. Have you guys heard of stress? I asked this question to a young lady while I was on book distribution, and she couldn't stop laughing for 3 whole minutes. Like she couldn't help herself. So what does this show? That everyone is stressed out in this material world. And the cause is the mind, and the cause is due to ignorance of our spiritual identity. When one understands that he's the soul and he's part and parcel of Krishna, he actually becomes happy. And by simply serving Krishna, the soul automatically becomes happy. The example that's given is watering the root of a tree. When you water the root of a tree, the whole tree is nourished. There's no separate endeavor to water the leaves, branches, twigs, things like that. When we identify with this body, we become very fearful. We become full of anxiety and stress. How can I be number one? How can I get more money? How can I be better than my next door neighbor, right? So this competitive mentality is actually a hellish mentality. There was a group full of brilliant-minded people, and one of them asked, who is the most unhappy person in the world? So one person said, one who's in poverty is unhappy. One said, someone who has disease is unhappy. And then one said, who has is alone is unhappy. So he went on and on. Finally, the last person, he said, one who is envious is the most unhappy. And when you think about it, it's true. Imagine being unhappy, seeing others happy. But that's not our philosophy at all. Chanakya Pandit, one of our teachers, he says, there are 4 enemies in a family. One is a father who is a debtor. He dies a debtor. The second one is a beautiful wife. The third enemy is a foolish son. And then the fourth one is a mother who marries for a second time while the grown-up children are still alive. So Chanakya Pandit, he describes there are actually enemies in this world, but it's not who we think it is, And maybe I'll ask, why is a father who dies a debtor an enemy? Does anyone like to answer that? Exactly. In the Manu Samhita, which is the law book for mankind, it's not so prominent here in the US, but if you die with a lot of debt, you bring that to your children. And then so the father becomes an enemy. A beautiful wife, but everyone is striving for that, right? A beautiful husband. But why is a beautiful wife an enemy? Okay. Attachment. Okay. What else? Envy. Okay. Lust. May not always be beautiful. Exactly. What makes the body beautiful is the soul. The soul animates the body, but then we're not studying about the soul. We're studying matter. We're studying how to be economically well-to-do, comfortable in this material world. But a beautiful wife, sometimes since her beauty attracts other men, she may fall down, she may commit adultery, so on. And then the third one is very easy. Why is a foolish son an enemy? He makes the family look bad, And it says that having a son that's blind is better than having no son, right? But the son should actually, because the son represents the father, and the son should have intelligence. And then the fourth one is, why is a mother an enemy if she marries a second time if the children are grown up? Okay. Well, it's kind of difficult to see in your mom or your dad being close to someone else, especially if you're used to your biological mother or father. So there's families, and also there's enemies in the family. I was speaking to one gentleman today, and I asked him, how do you deal with stress? And he says, I indulge in intoxication. But intoxication doesn't fix the problem. If anything, it creates more problems. My spiritual master, he would say, what is the root of intoxication? Toxic, right? But a lot of people, they indulge in these things, drugs, alcohol. If you give a dog a cup of beer, the dog will run away from this beer. But humans, we go to bars, we pay for this type of things. And my spiritual master, he told his son, who was going to college, he said, do you know what beer looks like? It looks like horse urine. It smells like horse urine, you know. But people are putting this in their system. And yet they claim to be very sophisticated. A person should be known by his qualities, you know. Is he tolerant? Is he peaceful? Does he have control over his senses? Things like that. They say that one of the biggest problems in the world is loneliness. How many dating apps are there? You know? Within a small community or an area, there's like thousands and millions, but still people have this long distance relationship, you know. And loneliness, if it's not solved properly, it leads to more deeper problems, depression, suicide. You'll be surprised how many people I speak to on a daily basis. And they say, I have a son, a father, a brother who took his own life. So the mind is very tricky. It gives us so many problems that it's not even there. And they say that suicide is a temporary or a permanent solution to a temporary problem. There was this lady, she was very hysterical. She went to all the doctors and she said, doctor, you have to help me. So the doctor asked her, what's wrong? She said, doctor, I have frogs in my stomach. And the doctor said, there's no way you don't have frogs in your stomach. So she went on and on. She went to 10 different doctors and the doctors told her, you're imagining this. And the lady said, no, I can hear them, I can feel them. So there was a doctor that wanted to play along with this patient. So she was put under anesthesia. They made a small incision in her stomach. When she woke up, the doctor said, we got rid of the frogs. And then the lady, she was so happy, she was so grateful. She said, thank you, doctor, thank you. I had this huge problem for a long time. You're the only one that seemed to want to help. And she went about her day. A week later, she came back to the doctor and she said, doctor, you have to help me. The frogs had babies. So the mind plays a lot of tricks on us, you know. The mind, there are 3 phases of time, past, present, future. And the mind is always worrying about the future. What if this happens, you know? And then it laments the past. I used to have this. I used to be young. I used to have hair, you know. One of our lines on book distribution, we tell them, yeah, I like your hair, you know. And I take off my hoodie or my hat. And I say, can you do something about my hair, you know? But so many people, they're very bodily conscious because, like I was saying, they think they're the body. And the mind is never satisfied in the present, you know. I was traveling with my spiritual master. We were going to Hawaii. And, you know, people think Hawaii is such a nice place, you know. It is a nice place, don't get me wrong. And when I was in Hawaii, the locals were thinking, only if I go to California, I'll be happier. Everyone thinks the grass is greener on the other side, but that's not always the case. There's a saying that wherever you are, there you are. You bring your mind with you. So if your mind is full of doubt, you know, anger, jealousy, envy, you bring that along with you. But if the mind is peaceful and the mind is always thinking of Krishna, then the mind is it's at peace. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna, he gave a very simple formula. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam, Kalau nasti eva, nasti eva, nasti eva, gatiranyata. It says, there's no other way, there's no other way, there's no other way in this age of Kali than chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. People want what they don't have, and what they have, they don't want to lose, isn't it? So this is called hankering and lamenting. The poor, they want wealth. And the old, they want to be youthful. Those who are unattractive, they want beauty. And those who are insignificant or unimportant, they want fame and influence. Those who are weak, they want power. But everyone is still identifying with the body. And everyone thinks, God made a mistake. Right? I should be more taller, I should have been born in this country. But according to the philosophy, yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tyajit yante kalevaram tam tam ivati konteya siddhata bhava bhavata. Krishna is saying, at the time of death, whatever consciousness we have, that determines our next life. So this is known as attachment. When we close our eyes, what do we think of? Do we think of our Tesla? Do we think of our dog? Or do we think of Krishna? So this is the test. And my spiritual master is so funny. He was telling me a story how when he was younger, they would go to the beach, and as a mother, they would make sandwiches for their kids. And sometimes little kids, they play, and then they knock the sandwich onto the sand. But the mother, she doesn't mind giving her sandwich to the children. Krishna is like that. Krishna is the well-wisher of the soul. Sarva, what is it? Suridam Sarva Bhutanam. Krishna is the well-wisher of the soul. But we forgot Krishna. We turned our face away from Krishna, and we wanted to enjoy this material world. But then where did it take us? Another birth, another stage of disease. We get old, and then ultimately we die. So instead of having eternal life, instead of having full knowledge and blissful, we wanted to come to this material world. And I heard from a class that Krishna tried so many ways to prevent us from coming here. He says, my dear sons and daughters, you're going to be rotting in the material world. But we said, no, Krishna, I want to be God. So therefore, we forced Krishna to allow us to come to this material world. So we can't blame Krishna. We can blame ourselves. And this is due to independence, free will. And sometimes we misuse that free will. Srila Prabhupada, the founder, Acharya of ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, he was having an interview with this lady named Sandy Nixon. And Srila Prabhupada, he says, to understand God, one must be first-class civilized human being. So then Srila Prabhupada compared it. Just like a university is meant for first-class students, God consciousness means first-class human beings. If you look at the world today, there's so many atheistic people out there. I'll ask you a riddle. What is the number one growing religion in the world right now? Your religion? Okay. You're close. Materialism. And their philosophy is get as much as you can, enjoy as much as you can, and take advantage of those that are weaker than you. And I speak to so many people on book distribution. I asked one person, I said, what do you do for work? He said, I sell people their happiness. He said, I sell people their happiness. And I said, what do you do? Yes, I'm a car salesman. So he knew that people are looking and chasing these things. I need a bigger house and then I'll be happy. I need a newer car and I'll be happy. I need to have this, I need to have that. And this is how the 1% remains in the 1%. We become exploited and we become cheated. Srila Prabhupada says, without religion, human life is simply animal life. So human life and animals, we share 4 basic instincts: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. But Srila Prabhupada explains that we do in a very polished way, sophisticated way. an animal runs on 4 legs and we run on 4 wheels. And we think we're so sophisticated, right? But it's the same thing. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And you never see an animal or a dog come to church, a temple, or a mosque, and ever try to understand their relationship with God. They're too busy surviving. I asked a couple today, I said, excuse me, are you guys surviving or living? And this actually got their attention, you know. And I said, what do you do? Both of them were working, but not just working, but they had 2 jobs. And I said, what are you working? We want to have a comfortable life. My spiritual master said, if you want to get to the root of something, you ask 5 times. You know, why is the lights not working? Oh, there's a bad connection. Why is there a bad connection? Someone didn't connect it properly. Why didn't you know? And then finally you get to the root. So similarly, I asked them, why are you going to school? Why do you want this and that? And they said, I want to be happy. But then I asked them, do you even know what happiness is? And they looked at me with a blank stare. They don't know what happiness was, but they're chasing this word, happiness. It reminds me of an animal. Before washing machines and all of this modern machinery, they would use donkeys. They would put a big heavy load of laundry on the donkey's back. And the nature of the donkey is it's lazy. It doesn't want to move. And what do? They put a stick on its back and a dangling carrot in front of it. And then the lazy donkey moves. So similarly, Maya, this illusory energy, she tempts the conditioned souls. You know, look at that shiny car. You got to have that. Look at that woman or look at that man. You got to have them, and then you'll be happy. Our happiness is now depending on conditions, which is very sad, actually. Srila Prabhupada, he says that the soul is naturally happy. But if you look at the world today, everyone's suffering. Someone asked me today, why do you do this? And I said, not only do I see suffering in everyone, but everyone is lost. They don't know where they're going. I asked this, I think, last week, or last time I gave class. Before driving, what is the first thing that you need? License, what did you say? Car? Okay. Who said destination? You need a destination. You need to know where you're going. Someone can be a very good driver. He can be the perfect role model for California, San Diego. He follows all the rules and regulations. You know, he stops perfectly. Right behind the person, you can see the tire, you know, perfect driver. When you ask him, sir, where are you going? And he says, I don't know. Now you would look at him like, okay, you know, okay, you're going to so many places, you're following the stoplights and everything, but you don't know where you're going. A lot of people in this world, they are like that. You know? They don't have a destination. They're just going through this motion, waking up, getting a cup of coffee, work, school, coming back. And what do they look forward to? Is that paycheck. And that paycheck determines their happiness. Our standards of living is decreasing every day. This is Kali Yuga. Still people think I'm happy, right? So this is illusion. Real happiness is when we are connected to Krishna. A screw that has fallen off of a machine, it has no value. It's just lying on the street. But when the same screw is connected to the machine, then it has purpose because it's connected to the machine. So similarly, each soul, each and every one of us, we are part and parcel of Krishna. Marcy Mataji, she also does book distribution. Please raise your hand. Please raise your hand. There you go. Marcy, she does book distribution. She carries Bhagavad Gita. She carries books with her. And she tells me, I can't believe so many people don't know Krishna. And she sounds so innocent, you know. And it's true. But who do they know? Mickey Mouse, right? They know Mickey Mouse, they know Batman, Superman. Each and every one of us, we're looking for a role model, someone to look up to, you know. But if you see the character of Krishna, he's so wonderful. His very name, Krishna, means the all-attractive one. And if you read Krishna's pastimes, they're amazing. Because God is amazing, so similarly, his pastime should also be amazing, isn't it? There's a philosophy or a worldview that God can't come to this material world. He can't come to his creation. But that doesn't make any sense. If a king constructs a prison house, shouldn't he be able to go in and out of the prison house? See, but they're limiting God's abilities, and they claim they know God, but they don't know God. But for us, we know Krishna. Krishna lives in Goloka Vrindavan. His mother is Yashoda, and his father is Nanda Maharaj. And all of these descriptions are all in the Vedas. And it describes that Krishna has a dark bluish color, you know, because his body is not like ours. Krishna has a pure, eternal spiritual body. That's the definition of God. I remember growing up, I was always wondering, how does God look like? You know, if God is the oldest person, the original person, you know, how will he look like after all these years? But in the Brahma Samhita, it says, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Sachit Ananda Vigraha, Nadir Adir Govinda, Sarva Karna Karnam. Krishna Govinda, he has a spiritual, blissful body, spiritual body. And he never looks older than 16 years old. That's Krishna. When Krishna appeared here 500 plus years ago, he said he lived to be 124 years old. But you never see a picture of Krishna with the beard. Rukmini, Krishna was playing with Rukmini Devi. And Krishna says, why did you marry me, you know? I have no caste. People don't know if I'm a Kshatriya, if I'm a cowherd boy, you know, like that. So then he said, why don't you should have married Shishupal. And then Rukmini said, all of these men, they're just decorated with the mustache. And at the end of life, they become old, you know. But Krishna is always youthful. So this is Krishna. Do you know the difference between a transformation and a changes? Because what I'm relating to is that these books, they create a transformation in one's life. Does anyone know the difference between change and transformation?
Change might not be for the better.
Okay, good, thank you. Change is reversible. You can always go back. Someone may change countries, states, but they go back. But a transformation is irreversible. And the example that's given is a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly. The butterfly is free to roam around wherever he wants, whereas the caterpillar, it's stuck, it's limited. And even if that butterfly wants to, gets a chance to become a caterpillar, why would it want to? You know, a lot of people, they go back to their old ways, you know. But someone who is practicing Krishna consciousness, someone who is really striving to get to the ultimate goal of life, they give up all their bad habits. There's a saying that every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. Before I was trying to be a devotee, I was a very horrible person. I took pleasure in hurting people, you know. I didn't know what I was doing in life. And all of us maybe can relate. But Srila Prabhupada, he gave the greatest gift. But unfortunately, if you give a child a very rare diamond, will they understand the value of it? No. So when we give these books out, they don't read them. And then Srila Prabhupada calls this unfortunate. We're giving them this rare opportunity to understand what is the ultimate goal of life. But They're too busy working. They say that a child is, the first 10 years, a child is stuck playing. This is their preoccupation. And then as a person grows older, he's stuck in romance, trying to find love, trying to find Mrs. Right, Mr. Right. And then when one gets to old age, he worries. How is my family going to be maintained? But in actuality, people are so busy now, they place their grandfathers, fathers in nursing homes, old people's homes. I was a nurse before I became a monk, and I remember it was Mother's Day. And the person came to pay the mother's rent. And I said, would you like to see your mother? She's upstairs. It's just a flight of stairs up. And her mother, she was diagnosed with dementia. She doesn't remember a lot of things. And she's always looking for her son. Did my son come today? And the son is too busy with life. He's too busy with his own family. So this one day, I said, would you like to go see your mother? He said no. Slapped the check on the table and then just went out. So this is how they treat people, and maybe not only in America, but other countries as well. And when I was working, 90% of the people were Americans. In other cultures, they actually respected their elders. In India, I know they would always ask for blessings, isn't it? Please bless me that I'll be successful. But now, people run away from home. They disrespect their parents, stuff like that. So, you tell me which country is better. So, Chad, Dujamani, and myself, we were joking about this. It's a riddle, so keep this in mind. What is the death rate of America compared to Europe? Huh? The same? What about Asia to Africa? 100%. It was a trick question. I asked this to a person today. She was really thinking about, maybe 20%, the death rate in America, and I just started giggling like crazy. And she said, why are you laughing? And I said, the death rate is the same everywhere, 100%. But each and every one of us is thinking, I'm not going to die. Therefore, I have 10 more years to live. I have 5 more years. But in a moment, everything can change. Someone can be diagnosed with cancer. Someone can get into a car accident. So it goes on and on. So we're always making plans for the future, but something that's guaranteed, which is death, no one prepares for it. See? It doesn't make any sense. My spiritual master uses this analogy. If you're driving in your, what's a really desirable car now? Okay, Tesla. I thought it was a Lamborghini or Ferrari, but now it's a Tesla, okay. Let's say a Tesla, and you have your beautiful wife with you, your beautiful children, and your dog, and up ahead the road is out, the bridge is out. Are you going to wait till you get there, or are you going to prepare for a solution? Intelligent means to prepare for it, but nobody is preparing for that ultimate end, which is death. See, there's a pastime of Yudhishthira Maharaj, who is Dharmaraj, and his father Yamaraj, the Lord of Death, asked him this question: what is the most phenomenal thing about this material world? And Yudhishthira Maharaj said, countless creatures are going to the abode of death, but those that remain believe themselves to be immortal. Isn't it? I won't die, right? But I've known a lot of people, even in their 20s, they gave up this life. They left this world. And what were they thinking of? We don't know. We don't know what their destination is. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada recommends we should always be thinking of Krishna. And if we can't think of Krishna, take Krishna Prasadam, Offer your food to Krishna. But nowadays, people are they want everything fast, you know. Today we were reading, there was a book called Faster, and explains the duration of messages. In the past, someone would write a letter, isn't it? And it takes about 2 weeks to reach the person, or a week or so. You know, oh, you did this and this, you know. And then when the person reads it, they get 2 weeks to reply to it, you know. And then there's Telegram, and it gets shorter and shorter. And then there was telephones. And then you get voicemail. When you're trying to avoid the person, you know, you say, oh, I'm not home, right? And then someone now says, I left you a message, you know. Now there's text message. It's faster and faster. Everyone wants convenience in this world, but that's not always a good thing. They did a test. It's called the Standard Marshmallow Test. Have you guys heard of this? They tested little kids. They put a marshmallow in front of them. They said, if you can wait X amount of minutes, you get 2. And they leave the room. How many kids failed, do you think? A lot of them, right? They just want to get that marshmallow. But those that were able to wait for gratification, they did further studies, and these students, these kids, they did better in life. They succeeded. They know how to deal with stress and anxiety, failures. And sometimes when people hit rock bottom, they don't know how to bounce back up. They go into this mental agitation. But this verse says, for one who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. I asked a person one time, I said, how's your mind treating you? He said, my mind's going 1 billion miles an hour. Imagine that. But for us, if you understand who you are, and then you can be peaceful. You're not striving for this or that, or, you know, and you understand that I'm an eternal soul. So the Vedic literatures, they're very deep. They teach us that human life is not meant to live selfishly. If one lives a life of sacrifice, that is a life of value, isn't it? Just like in, you know, people are being cheated left and right. There's Valentine's Day. Out of the whole year, buy something expensive to show that you love the other person. You know, just like this New Year's resolution, you know, you wait a whole year to be a better person. But why start today? And we could always make that improvement, you know, maybe to control my anger, maybe to control my jealousy, things like that. But so many people are being cheated. But charity is one of the best ways to purify ourselves. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that austerity, penance, and charity, sacrifice, should never be given up. They purify even the great souls. Right? Okay. I'll tell a few Sankirtan stories. Sankirtan means going out, you know, reaching out to people. There was this lady at La Jolla Cove. Do you guys know where La Jolla Cove is? Yeah. I also heard that La Jolla Cove, it's a very opulent place, but it's where most suicides happen. So that shows that even when someone has all of these material calculations right, they still may not be happy because they don't know what happiness is. So I asked this Mataji, this lady, are you happy? And she just looked at me with wide eyes like, are you asking me this question? And she said, I'm happy. And I said, what is your source of happiness? And she didn't know how to answer it. See, people think they're happy, but they don't know what happiness is. So I said, let me give you this book. It's called Hiding an Unnatural Happiness. That title is so attractive, isn't it? I would like to read it. Unnatural happiness, what do you mean? So I was explaining to her how this word happiness, it has turned into a never-ending pursuit. Never ending. $1 billion is not enough. I don't understand it, People have billions and trillions of dollars. They don't spend it. They just hoarding it. I had a patient, she was a millionaire, and she was diagnosed with cancer. And the lawyer came out of her room, and we were discussing who's going to keep her inheritance, her wealth. At the end, guess who took the money? Huh? She gave it to her cat. Yeah. She didn't trust her family. Imagine that. You work so hard, but then you don't have friends that you can trust, your family, they just using you. She gave her millions to her cat. And what is her cat gonna do with millions of dollars? Cat farm. The cat doesn't know what money is. It's just eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That's it. If a human being spends his life in this way, we're no better than a two-legged animal. Therefore, the human intelligence is very rare, and we should utilize it properly. So, long story short, I said you should get this book and should try to understand what is actual happiness. She actually started crying. She said, nobody has asked me this question before. What is happiness? What is my source of happiness? So I met another person. What time is it? Okay. This is my last one because we'll take a few questions or comments. There was a lady today. She looked very well-to-do. And I asked her, do you know what stress is? And this word stress is so funny. If you want to get a crowd, you just put this stress on a billboard. Stress, and people will come. But I asked her, do you know what stress is? And she said, yeah. And I said, are you stressed? And she said, no. And I said, why aren't you stressed? She said, I have this, I have that, I have this. She was naming all of her possessions. And I asked her, what happens if you don't have these? And then she said, I don't want to imagine that. See, she was so attached to her material things, she couldn't imagine living without them. So then again, I gave her that book, Hiding in Unnatural Happiness. She said, I don't need this book. And I said, you, miss, probably need it the most. And I said it to her very gravely, very seriously. And when you speak to a monk, we don't talk nonsense, We don't speak nonsense. We're not going to talk about sports. We're not going to talk about politics. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what is the goal of life and how should I get there. So anyway, she said, you think I need this? I turned to page 16. This is my favorite quote. Robin Williams was a very famous actor, comedian. Everyone loved him, and he seemed very happy, isn't it? And he disclosed, this is the quote from him. He said, isn't it funny how I can bring great happiness to all these people, but not to myself? He had everything, but he took his own life. So he's one of those prime examples that had everything materially, but happiness slipped through his fingertips. So the mind is very tricky. We should understand what the mind is. We should be able to control the mind. One last story. There was a lady, I had her read that verse, for one who has conquered the mind. And said, oh, I can't read this. And I said, why not? She said, I let my mind do whatever it wants. Imagine that. And I just looked at her like, are you sure you don't want the book? Mahaprabhu, he says if you take a stool out of worm, he's going to crawl back. So material happiness is compared to this. They don't know that it's actually a hellish mentality and condition, that their happiness depends on material things. But a devotee, a Krishna devotee, he knows this is actually abominable. But they take pleasure in these filthy things, Okay, I hope I made some sense today. Please forgive my class. Are there any questions or comments regarding what we talked about today? Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember like when the purport was being read. I may be wrong. If my question is wrong, just I'll take it back. I think I heard something like that. In order, the yoga is before having good yoga is not enough unless until mind is controlled.
Yeah.
So what comes first? I mean, we do yoga to control the mind, or first control the mind and then do yoga?
Okay. So the word yoga now has been distorted to its original meaning. Yoga is actually a very deep spiritual practice. Prabhupada, he would say yoga now in the West is commercialized yoga. When people think of yoga, they think of stretching and breathing. But yoga means to link the mind to the heart, to meditate on the super soul, Krishna. So to answer your question, I would say the purpose of practicing eightfold yoga is to control the mind in order to make it a friend. So it's actually simultaneous. Yoga means to control the mind. Now yoga centers, they just teach how to make the body look good for enjoyment, That's not real yoga. And also to practice real yoga, one should abstain from sexual activities, but they don't promote that. They rarely promote that because it's easier to get followers if you tell them you can do whatever you want. But Srila Prabhupada, he didn't water down this philosophy. He gave us 4 rules: no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, and no illicit sex. If your doctor prescribes a certain medicine to you, are you going to follow that, or are you just going to do your own thing and hoping that no? So if you want to be happy, you have to follow these 4 regulative principles. If a person like me can do it, anybody can do it. Does that help, Prabhu?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Any chastisement, correction? Okay.
When I read Bhagavad Gita, I understood that Krishna says it is highly impossible to control mind. So as human beings, we don't need to control the mind by ourselves. So by indulging with Krishna, if we give the task to Krishna, and then when we do the chanting of Krishna, automatically we start listening to our intellect. When we start listening to our intellect, that is when you're connected to Krishna. When you're connected to Krishna, he takes the control. So that's the reason in the picture, in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita book, there's a picture where exactly Arjuna is Krishna is just riding the horse and Arjuna is behind, because Arjuna is nobody but like us. So we need to give our control to Krishna so that Krishna will take care of the senses, because senses is something which we cannot control.
Thank you. Arjuna says, let me remember, Chanchala Himana Krishna Pramati Balavadridam Tasyaham Nigraham Manye Vayar Eva Sudushkaram. Arjuna is saying, Prabhupada makes the point that we're not on Arjuna's level, first of all. Arjuna is a pure, eternal associate of Krishna. And who are we? We didn't want Krishna's association. And Arjuna is saying the mind is restless, turbulent, powerful, and to subdue it is more powerful than the wind. So the first thing also is that we need to accept a bona fide spiritual master. We cannot approach Krishna directly, not in this condition. People have this idea that, Krishna is giving, Krishna gives us the intelligence, but sometimes it can be our own mind. There was a devotee, he said, Krishna says I should take sannyas. And this other devotee said, that's funny, Krishna told me you shouldn't. So sometimes our mind plays tricks, but we should follow Guru Parampara system. We cannot approach Krishna on our own efforts. That's not the system in which Srila Prabhupada established. And even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he had a spiritual master. When Krishna was here, he went to Gurukul. He accepted Sandipani Muni as his teacher. Krishna is God, But why did he accept a teacher? To teach us that we should accept a spiritual teacher. Okay, we're going to end here. Thank you for your time. We're going to have a kirtan when from blah, 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 blah. Sorry, I'm kind of tired. But Mukunda Charna Prabhu, do you have something?
Yes, we'll now stand up and we'll have kirtan.